hurry and run. Seeing that the situation was not good, the three Sword Alliance members started to escape. GGG. However, their running didn't matter. The strange gas that filled the air was as though they found their target, and with lightning speed, it flew towards the three people. Shoo! As they faced such strange substances, the three of them started crazily waving their iron sword in their hands, but it was useless towards the gas. It was not affected by it in any way, and at the end, the gas entered their brains. At that instant, the faces of the three people already changed greatly. They threw away the iron swords in their hand, covered their head, then started painfully wailing. Chu Feng could clearly see that their faces went from white to green, from green to purple. And they were kneeling on the ground at first, but then they started rolling around. One could tell that they were suffering from huge waves of pain, but the painful wailing only lasted for a moment. Very quickly, the three of them breathed no more, and with the limp of their legs, they died. Their death faces were extremely abnormal. Their faces were swelled, bled from the 7 facial orifices, their eyes bulged out, and even their hair started to fall. It was as terrifying as it could get, GGG. But the more terrifying thing to Chu Feng was the strange gas. After the torturous death of the three people, the gas that went into their brains went back out. At the same time, the strange gas from all around started slowly floating towards Chu Feng. Please save me. As he panicked, Chu Feng cast his gaze towards the mysterious old man, because he found out that the gas was floating all around except for the area around the old man. Which meant, more or less, the mysterious things were afraid of the old man. But not only did Chu Feng's cry of help not gain the sympathy of the old man, it even agitated the strange gas all around him, and at that moment, they attacked Chu Feng with lightning speed. Damn! Seeing that the situation was not good, Chu Feng's body moved, and he madly ran towards that old man. He wanted to use the guy to escape the calamity. However, he underestimated the speed of the strange gas. Just after running for a few steps, Chu Feng felt a wave of pain from his brain, as if something entered his consciousness and was tearing his brain apart. Quickly after, the pain kept on increasing, and Chu Feng already knew that a large amount of the strange gas entered his brain. Those things were like eating his body, and they brought unbearable pain. Under those circumstances, Chu Feng had no way of resisting, and very quickly, he fell to the ground. He started rolling back and forth just like the 3 Sword Alliance members from before, while loudly wailing. As he looked at that scene, the mysterious old man was not moved at all. However, the strange smile that was on his face slowly dimmed down, and replacing it was a disappointed curve. But just at that time, Chu Feng suddenly started snarling. A white ray spread out from his head like a whirlpool and started swirling around it. In an instant, all the strange gas within a circumference of several meters got blown away like dust and smoke. After snarling, Chu Feng laid on the ground without power and went unconscious. But that white ray whirlpool kept on swirling with him as the core. Under the protection of the swirl of light, the strange gas from all around did not dare to get any closer to Chu Feng. Even the ear-piercing noises from before became a lot deeper and lower, as if they were scared. Facing that change, the expression of the mysterious old man changed, and a pleasant surprise surged from both of his eyes. After that, he waved his big sleeve, and a strange wave spread everywhere. All the gas went back into the white bones. When the strange gas disappeared, the swirl of light around Chu Feng's body also slowly went back into Chu Feng's brain. After waiting for almost 1,000 years, I finally met a moldable person. I hope that you don't disappoint me. The old man's body moved, floated in midair, then slowly glided in front of Chu Feng. After that, his fingers extended and he pointed at Chu Feng's chest. Several firefly-like glowing objects flew out from his fingers and shot into Chu Feng's chest. When those glowing objects went through Chu Feng's clothes and entered his body, the clothes were undamaged, but his chest started to have several dots of glow. The old man silently stared at Chu Feng until the glow disappeared from Chu Feng's chest. Then he slowly closed his eyes. Suddenly, with the old man in the middle, a fierce dark green hurricane started swirling around, and the hurricane had dots of essence which contained incomparable, terrifying pressure. Instantly, it engulfed the mountain forest. The strange thing was that the hurricane did not rise up into the air. Rather, it started going down into the ground. Finally, it went deep into the soil, and the vast white bones also disappeared. After the violent hurricane, all the flowers, grass and trees in the forest were not changed in any way, and the night sky also covered the land again. The only change was the fainted Chu Feng and the 3 dead members of the Sword Alliance. A gentle wind passed and brought slight bits of chill. That chill also made Chu Feng recover his senses as he slowly opened his eyes. What happened? Was I dreaming? Chu Feng sat up, and while he massaged his aching head, he scanned around. He found out that the scary scene from before completely disappeared, and it made him feel that the previous experience was only a dream. This isn't right. When Chu Feng's gaze landed on the 3 Sword Alliance members, he suddenly stood up. As he looked at the horrifying death conditions, he knew that the previous events really did happen. That's too scary. Why is there such a strange place in this spiritual medicine mountain? 1,000 Bone Graveyard. Where did that come from? Who is that mysterious old man? Chu Feng was completely shocked. Everything that happened up to this point was unimaginable, because everything that happened already exceeded his bearable range. Shashasha. Just at that time, Chu Feng suddenly heard the sound of footsteps, and he knew that people were coming close. Looking at the situation, Chu Feng turned around and escaped deeper into the forest. He needed to leave because he could not let people know that he was connected to the 3 Sword Alliance members, or else he would have no way of explaining it. He couldn't say that they entered the 1,000 Bone Graveyard from the legends, and then the 3 got killed while he was not even scratched, right? It was too strange, and even if he told people, no one would believe it. Even if people did believe it, Chu Feng would become a strange person in the Azure Dragon School, so he needed to remove all connections. As Chu Feng ran, he quickly found out that something was different about him. He felt that his senses were extremely clear. Even the grass moving from the wind was detectable by him. He never had that feeling before. Is my head so sensitive because there is too much spiritual energy in this spiritual medicine mountain, combined with the silence of the night? Chu Feng tried to find out why he had better senses, but he suddenly stopped his footsteps. Instantly, both of his eyes lit up, and a surprised look emerged from his face. He felt a strange energy moving, and although it was still fairly far, he could confirm that it was a sky spirit grass. I'm not imagining this, am I? Chu Feng was shocked to be able to feel where the spiritual grass was located at, and of course, Chu Feng knew what that meant. If that feeling was real, it meant that in the spiritual medicine mountain, he was like a fish in water. Whoosh! Thinking to that point, Chu Feng did not hesitate and walked towards the direction in which he felt something from. He wanted to completely investigate it. As he got closer, Chu Feng got more happy because the movements of the sky spirit grass in his brain was getting stronger and stronger, which more or less meant that his feeling was not an illusion. When Chu Feng passed another bush, he saw a red plant in front of him. It was the sky spirit grass. The sky spirit grass was quite a bit better than the ground spirit grass. The red branches and trunk emitted a red glow, and it looked like it was on fire. It seemed especially beautiful during the night. Little thing, after toying around with me for a whole day, I'll see if you can escape me this time. As he saw the sky spirit grass, Chu Feng did not stop and instantly rushed forward. He concentrated his spiritual energy at the bottom of his feet, and his speed doubled in an instant. Within a blink, he arrived in front of the sky spirit grass. But before Chu Feng even extended his hands, that sky spirit grass disappeared and was not to be seen. You want to run, but can you? Seeing that the sky spirit grass wanted to escape by invisibility, Chu Feng formed a cold smile on the corner of his mouth. He stepped forward, grabbed the air in front of him, and then he heard a sharp cry. One sky spirit grass was grasped within Chu Feng's hands. When the sky spirit grass was caught by Chu Feng, it instantly lost its invisibility and started to madly struggle. The power of it was several times stronger than the ground spirit grass, but it was useless as it was in Chu Feng's hands. At the end, it could only obediently lose its spiritual nature and become a half-inch red-colored spiritual grass that laid in Chu Feng's palm. It seems that this is certainly not an illusion. Chu Feng threw the sky spirit grass into the bag, and he was insanely happy in his heart. Although he didn't know where the special sense came from, to Chu Feng, he could rely on it strongly. Unless. But with a thought, it was not hard for Chu Feng to think where the power came from. After all, it was formed after he entered the 1,000-bone graveyard, and the target of the strange gas was the brain. Which meant it was logical, even if it was the attack of the strange gas that made Chu Feng's senses stronger. Hey, another thing dropped right at my doorstep. Just at that time, his eyes lit up once again. Another sky spirit grass entered his detection range. Under such a strong detection power, virtually no sky spirit grass was able to escape Chu Feng's hands. Any escaping methods were wasted efforts. Chu Feng did not sleep for the entire night, and when it was day, he already caught dozens of sky spirit grasses. A harvest like that would certainly make people go crazy. If someone found out about it, even robbing Chu Feng was a possibility. After all, within the spiritual medicine mountain, the number of battles and thievery between disciples were not few. However, Chu Feng's detection power was not only limited to sky spirit grasses. Even if a human entered a certain range, they would be detected by Chu Feng, so almost no one could find traces of Chu Feng. Another day passed, and when the night arrived, Chu Feng's bag was almost already full. This time, Chu Feng did not continue hunting, and he found a hidden place to start refining the sky spirit grasses. Chu Feng's refining speed was top class, and after only 4 hours, the bag that was full of sky spirit grasses were completely refined by him. With that, his dantian also got more and more full. That made Chu Feng joyful, and although the sky spirit grass was not comparable to the saint spirit grass, if he had this amount every day to refine, he could break through within 10 days. From that day forth, Chu Feng spent all day in the middle circle of the spiritual medicine mountain and hunted sky spirit grasses without restraint until deep into the night. He refined all the sky spirit grasses that he hunted that day. Then, after resting for 4 hours, he continued to hunt insanely. It cycled like such, and after 9 days from the time in which Chu Feng entered the spiritual medicine mountain, he felt a great change in his dantian. The 9 lightning beasts changed once again, and Chu Feng finally broke through the 4th level of the spirit realm into the 5th. With this power, I should be able to battle against people that are on the 6th level of the spirit realm. Feeling the strength that was improving many times, Chu Feng was speechless himself. The him who had the divine lightning really had power that was way stronger than others. Especially his 3 thunder styles. If he used it, even experts at the 6th level of the spirit realm could not defeat him. Level crossing battles were already defying common sense. Although the geniuses who had extremely high talent could do it, those were geniuses. If those things happened on a person people knew, everyone would be shocked. After raising his power, Chu Feng went hunting for sky spirit grasses again. This time it was a lot easier. With merely half a day, he already filled up his bag. Since the bag of rations was almost empty, that bag also became Chu Feng's tool for storing spiritual medicine. However, the current Chu Feng was not only thinking about sky spirit grasses. He wanted to head towards the inner circle, and he wanted to check the saint spirit grasses that were rumored to be no weaker than a rank 6 fierce beast. This aura. But before entering the inner circle for long, Chu Feng felt 2 types of auras, and they were both extremely strong. The first one were the spiritual medicines. The densely filled evil aura was obviously from the saint spirit grasses that had spiritual natures. There were a lot of them, almost 100. The other aura was from a human. It was also extremely large, so it should be an expert of the 7th level of the spirit realm. At that moment, the 2 auras were blended together. It was obvious that the person was having a great battle with the saint spirit grasses. But that person's aura was not stable, so they must have entered a trap. Who dared to challenge so many saint spirit grasses by themselves? With a heart of curiosity, Chu Feng decided to observe the outcome. When he leaped over the layers of trees, he was stunned by the scene in a distance. A 3-meter-tall huge plant, filled with purple thorns, had its mouth open, which was full of teeth. It was emitting an oppressing aura from its body, and it didn't even look like a saint spirit grass. It looked more like a monster. However, rather than the scary saint spirit grasses, Chu Feng's gaze concentrated on the petite figure, because that figure not only went through the formation of near 100 saint spirit grass, it was a beauty that matched her name. That elegant long hair, that delicate face, that snow-white skin, those eyes that were not fearful in front of danger and were instead unyielding, deeply attracted Chu Feng. That girl was undoubtedly the most beautiful person Chu Feng ever saw, but the reason why Chu Feng was attracted to her was not only because of her appearance. It was also the power that she had at her age. "Careful below!" Suddenly, Chu Feng yelled loudly because he felt that a saint's spirit grass was hidden under the feet of the girl. What? The girl didn't even notice Chu Feng, so after hearing such an unexpected yell surprised her. She subconsciously tapped the ground with both her feet and leaped into the air. In the instant that she left the ground, a huge saint's spirit grass drilled out from the ground, with its fangs and claws bared. That unforeseen event created lingering fear in that girl. If it wasn't for the reminder of that voice, she would have certainly had paid a huge cost. With gratitude in her heart, she cast her gaze towards Chu Feng. But when she saw Chu Feng, her delicate face instantly froze and she said with shock, "It's you. You know me?" Chu Feng carefully evaluated that beautiful girl, and after looking up and down 3 times, he found out that not only was the girl beautiful, she was also very young, obviously being younger than him. Also, there was a badge on the chest of the girl that showed that she was a member of the Wings Alliance. Although that girl shocked Chu Feng, he really did not recognize the girl. "Who knows you? Hurry up and leave. This isn't a place where you can come." The girl glanced at Chu Feng, then continued to throw herself into the huge battle against the saint's spirit grasses, and it seemed that she was extremely angry at Chu Feng. Although Chu Feng did not know why the girl was so angry, Chu Feng already knew that the girl was surrounded by the saint's spirit grasses. She wanted to escape, but she did not have that chance. If that continued, the girl would not be able to continue because of her physical strength, and she would die there. As a man, how could Chu Feng let such a beautiful girl be eaten by those monsters? He could not ignore something like that, so while thinking about that, Chu Feng jumped in without hesitation. But just as he entered, he regretted it a bit. A large amount of monsters felt his presence and started attacking straight at him. "It seems that I have to go all out." Life was hung by a thread, so Chu Feng didn't hold back anymore. The spiritual energy in his dantian started to move and it went along the veins. The top of his toes touched the ground, and with a boom, his entire body leaped into the air like lightning. As he was landing, Chu Feng suddenly started spinning. A whirlwind started to rise, and his entire body was like a human blade as it fiercely thrust into the 100 of flowers underneath. Bang! As he was landing, the flowers scattered. The moment he landed, the ground formed a deep hole with cracks all around it. One saint spirit grass was killed on scene by Chu Feng and became as big as his finger. He displayed the first 2 styles of the 3 thunder styles, yet he only killed 1 saint spirit grass. That was unexpected to Chu Feng. After all, it was his strongest trump card. He thought that with those attacks, the sky would be frightened and the ground would sob, and a large number of saint spirit grasses would die under his feet. But the result in his eyes had too much of a difference from his imagination. However, Chu Feng didn't think too much about that. Almost at the same time that he landed, he suddenly jumped up again because he felt that there were at least 3 saint spirit grasses that attacked from behind. "Do you want to die?" Feeling the change in the saint spirit grasses attack formation and the wailing sounds from nearby, the girl knew that Chu Feng jumped in. But when she cast her gaze towards Chu Feng's direction, she couldn't help but be astonished, no matter what she thought. She never would have guessed that Chu Feng could come and go, as he wished within the army of saint spirit grasses that even she was fearful of. Even without seeing the attacks of the saint spirit grass, he could still accurately dodge and attack. Although she did not recognize the skills that Chu Feng used, she could still tell from the power that it was at least a rank 4 skill. This guy, he just entered the 5th level of the spirit realm and he can already use rank 4 skills? The girl was deeply attracted towards Chu Feng's performance. "Careful on the left!" Just as the girl was in a daze, Chu Feng suddenly yelled. Hearing that, the girl was suddenly alarmed and quickly turned her body. With one palm, she grabbed her left and grabbed onto the thorny vine. After grabbing on the vines, the girl clenched with her fist and broke the vines into pieces. Another palm swept out like a blade, and with a cold flash, she chopped the saint spirit grass into 2. It wasn't even like a palm, it was more like an iron blade. After accurately chopping the saint spirit grass, the girl was even more shocked. Chu Feng was clearly facing her with his back, so how could he see that there was a saint spirit grass attacking on his left? Unless Whoosh! Just at that time, Chu Feng brushed next to the girl like lightning. At that moment, he was covered with sweat, and bloodstains also appeared on his clothes. The Saint Spirit grasses were too strong, and there were too many of them. Although Chu Feng had the strong detection power and his incomparably strong 3 thunder styles, the him who was in the 5th level of the spirit realm was a bit weak towards them. Oi, if you want to get out alive, listen to my instructions, Chu Feng said to the girl. You want me to listen to you? In your dreams. The girl was extremely displeased. Say, are you even making sense? I came in here to save you, and this is how you treat me. Also, didn't you notice that these Saint Spirit grasses are a bit strange? They don't attack blindly, and they have a strict coordination. If you're going to go head on with them, you will only get tired. Rubbish. That's obvious. I already knew that. Although she said that on the surface, in her heart she just understood that. If it wasn't for Chu Feng's reminder, she really wouldn't have noticed that. With her strength, killing Saint Spirit grasses was not hard, but it was obvious that she was helpless against this crowd of Saint Spirit grasses. There were very small chances of a straight-up confrontation, and she always needed to dodge the attacks from them. It's fine if you don't want to listen, since I can leave this place alive. Chu Feng coldly snorted and prepared to leave. Follow new stories at novelb.com. Oi, don't. Seeing that Chu Feng was leaving, that terrified the girl. She already saw Chu Feng's ability, so she had no doubts that Chu Feng could successfully escape. However, she could not, so she immediately said, I'll listen to you. Heh. Seeing the cute, obeying look of the girl, Chu Feng chuckled, then said, That's better. Seeing Chu Feng so proud of himself made the girl's mouth twitch. Although her strength was above Chu Feng, she knew that if she wanted to escape, she needed to rely on Chu Feng. The two of them tried their best to coordinate, and under Chu Feng's command, the strength of the girl was truly exhibited. The near 100 Saint Spirit grasses were completely annihilated by the two people with only an hour. After the huge battle, Chu Feng started cleaning up the battlefield. Of course, he had his part in the Saint Spirit grass that filled the ground. Although the main force was the girl, he was the main brains. Did this guy train in the mysterious techniques? Seeing the Chu Feng that was happily picking up the Saint Spirit grasses, the coarsely breathing girl who was sitting on the side started muttering. At first, for self-protection, Chu Feng was continuously using rank 4 skills. Although rank 4 skills were strong, they consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Most people could only use it a few times before they exhausted their spiritual energy. However, after using it for so long, Chu Feng didn't even have any feeling of exhaustion. In addition, being able to use his 5th level of the Spirit Realm power to defeat the Saint Spirit grass that was equivalent to a rank 6 fierce beast indicated a problem. It was that Chu Feng might have trained in the mysterious techniques. Mysterious techniques. They were mysterious techniques. Cultivators were able to gather more spiritual energy, refine spiritual medicine quicker, causing the spiritual energy in the Dantian to be more rich, and the battle abilities were several times stronger than normal people. But there were very little mysterious techniques, and even the Azure Dragon School only had a few. They were only provided to the core disciples for cultivation, and inner court disciples had no way of even touching them. Chu Feng being able to cultivate in the precious mysterious techniques naturally made the girl see Chu Feng in another light. However, she didn't know the reason why Chu Feng's spiritual energy was so strong wasn't because of some mysterious technique. It was because of the divine lightning in his Dantian. It seems that not only is your spirit power impressive, you have plenty of spiritual energy as well. The girl stood up and walked over to Chu Feng with both of her hands behind her back. What spirit power? Chu Feng stared blankly. Still playing dumb? If you didn't have the spirit power, how could you clearly see the attack of the Saint Spirit grasses? The girl looked blankly back at Chu Feng. You're talking about my detection power? Chu Feng was startled as he knew what the girl meant. Detection power? My gods, you called the spirit power the detection power. You really are a bumpkin. The girl's gaze towards Chu Feng became more and more disdainful. It's normal to not know. Would you know if you were male or female when you were born? Chu Feng coldly snorted and continued to pick up the Saint Spirit grasses all around them. Oh, your temper is quite short. The girl sweetly smiled, caught up to him, then chuckled. Did you know that not even 1 person out of 10,000 have this spirit power? You seem to really understand this spirit power? Chu Feng's heart tightened. He just started using the so-called spirit power, so he didn't understand it too much. But he also knew that it was likely true when the girl said there weren't even one within 10,000 that had the spirit power. It was very obvious that this extremely talented girl didn't have it. In addition, her treatment towards him turned 180 degrees, showing that this spirit power was quite an impressive thing which ordinary people did not have. But of course, the spirit power is the favor of the heavens. It is brought by nature and unobtainable by cultivation. Those who have spirit power can be said to be a dragon within men. Not only would their cultivating talent be extremely strong, their observation would be unrivaled. No wonder my elder sister looked at you and asked our Wings Alliance to invite you. Your elder sister? I forgot about the self-introductions. I am called Sumei, 14 years old, and you certainly know my elder sister. She is called Suru. You are Elder Suru's sister? Chu Feng did not expect that. The girl in front of him was pure and sweet, but that Suru was extremely charming. Although the two of them were very beautiful women, they were not similar. But after some more precise looking, Chu Feng found out that the girl in front of him looked a tiny bit like Suru. Right now, the girl was still a bit young, but in a few years, she would certainly be a stunning beauty. What surprised Chu Feng was that he was not related to Suru in any way, so why did Suru try to pull him into the Wings Alliance for no reason? Was it that his strength was already exposed on the day of the exam? After some more careful thing, there was that possibility. After all, Suru's strength was unmeasurably deep, and there were layers of mechanisms in the underground palace. He may have been able to deceive the disciples, but to deceive the elders would really have quite some difficulty. Is it so surprising? But there's actually nothing that surprising. My sister saw that you were a talented person, so she wanted to develop you a bit. From my observations, you do have the qualifications to join the Wings Alliance. As one of the members of the Wings Alliance, I hereby officially invite you to join. Speaking to that point, Sumei squinted her eyes and gave Chu Feng an incomparably sweet, clean, pure smile. At first, Sumei extremely disliked Chu Feng, and the reason was obviously because Chu Feng refused the invitation of the Wings Alliance. Chu Feng was the first ever person in history to refuse the invitation of the Wings Alliance. But knowing that Chu Feng had the extremely rare spirit power, she also knew that the place that Suru had her eyes on were naturally the spirit power. From what she knew, in the entire outer court, not one person had the spirit power, and it was just like a legend. In short, any person that had the spirit power would have unlimited accomplishments in the future and were destined to be an extremely strong person. So, to a person like Chu Feng, she obviously could not let him go and did everything she could to attract him. Seeing Sumei's sweet smile, Chu Feng knew that the girl wanted to pull him in the alliance with her looks. It was impossible for Chu Feng's heart to not be moved in front of such a beauty, so he smiled at first, but then firmly said, "I refuse." "You bastard." Hearing Chu Feng's words, Sumei was so angry that she jumped up. The previous gentleness instantly disappeared, and she bit her teeth in anger while pointing at Chu Feng while angrily saying, "Chu Feng, who do you think you are? How many people wish to join in the Wings Alliance yet are refused by us? Today I personally invite you, yet you still refused. Is your brain wedged by a door? So what if you have the spirit power? At the end you're just at the 5th level of the spirit realm. It's not even comparable to the people in the Wings Alliance." Facing Sumei's fierce cursing, Chu Feng did not get agitated nor angry and completely ignored her. He continued picking the Saint Spirit grasses on the floor, and the ones he could pick up he did. Suddenly, he had a blank look. He discovered with astonishment at a not-so-distant place, a purple bead appeared. That bead was the same size as a pearl, but it contained extremely strong spiritual energy. "What's this?" Chu Feng picked up the bead and carefully assessed it. "Wow, is it? It's a spiritual bead." Seeing that purple shiny bead, Sumei hurriedly ran over and her eyes were lit up. "You recognize this thing?" Chu Feng asked curiously. "Of course I do. It's the top quality spiritual medicine, the spiritual bead. From several hundred Saint Spirit grasses, only one would form into a spiritual bead. You cannot refine the spiritual bead, but if you directly swallow it, it would form into spiritual energy and be absorbed by the Dantian. That's why the spiritual bead is extremely precious." The price of one of them is equivalent to 100 taels of gold. I've been wandering around the inner circle of the spiritual medicine mountain for all these days just for this spiritual bead. I never would have thought that I would get it before leaving. I'm too fortunate, Sumei said, emotionally. So this thing is a top-quality spiritual medicine that doesn't require refining. It is indeed a good thing. Chufeng chuckled and didn't put the bead in the bag. Rather, he put it in his own pocket. You want to keep it to yourself? Seeing that, Sumei angrily yelled. Of course not. In a while, I'll give you a few more Saint Spirit grasses. These Saint Spirit grasses were originally mine, and it's already pretty good that I'm willing to give you half. In any case, the Saint Spirit grass are only high-quality spiritual medicine. How could they even compare to the top-quality spiritual bead? You can't say it like that. If it wasn't for me, then you would have already been divided into two by those Saint Spirit grasses. How could you even be standing here and be dividing these Saint Spirit grasses with me? You. Sumei tightly bit her teeth in anger, yet she was helpless. Although Chufeng's actions were very scoundrelly, she still wanted to get Chufeng into the Wings Alliance, so she could only endure. After that, Chufeng counted a bit, and except for the spiritual bead in his pocket, he gathered a total of 78 Saint Spirit grasses. It was absolutely an unimaginable number. Also, the spiritual energy contained in these Saint Spirit grasses were very rich. They were very high quality, and they were a lot better than the ones Chufeng refined before. Chufeng only took 30 and left 48 for Sumei. He could feel that the spiritual energy in his pocket were equivalent to at least 50 Saint Spirit grasses. So even if it was divided up like this, he still gained a lot. But Chufeng did not expect that Sumei only took 40, and with that, Chufeng had 38. Sumei's meaning was very clear. She was cursing Chufeng to be 3 to 8. Tennessee 3-8 is an insult. Chufeng could only call her actions as childish. Giving up 8 Saint Spirit grasses for cursing was really something a wasteful person would do, as the price of 1 Saint Spirit grass was equal to 1 tael of gold. 1 tael of gold was equal to 100 taels of silver. It was enough for an ordinary family to pass their lives without worries for clothing or food. Girl, what are you following me for? You didn't fall for me, did you? After dividing the Saint Spirit grasses, Chufeng decided to leave the spiritual medicine mountain. The 10 days were up, and they needed to leave the inner circle before the sky turned dark. But Chufeng did not expect that Sumei would be following him. To be honest, having such a beautiful person that walked with him was a very satisfactory thing. But as they walked, they met a lot of people. When all sorts of gazes of hate were cast towards Chufeng, he didn't feel easy. He felt that Sumei was intentionally bringing hatred towards him. Follow new stories at novelb.com. I have indeed fallen for you. Do you dare to marry me? But when Sumei said those words while laughing, Chufeng was instantly in chaos. Chufeng never would have thought that the little girl seemed so pure, yet was so unreserved. No matter what you say, she was still a little beauty. So how could she say such things out of nowhere? Marry you? Why wouldn't I dare? But Chufeng did not back off. He stopped his steps, put his hand under his chin, looked up and down with his eyes, and seriously evaluated the beauty in front of him. Only then did he discover that Sumei's age may not be big, but her development was quite nice. It really heated people up with her good convexes and her beautiful curves. You dare marry, but I don't. Damn hooligan. Being looked by Chufeng's scoundrelly gaze, Sumei could not keep up with that face. She finally discovered that she was too inexperienced and acting shamelessly with Chufeng, and just with a few words from Chufeng, she became completely frantic. Oh, that's great if you don't marry, you really aren't my type. Chufeng faintly smiled, as if a huge burden had been released, and continued walking. You bastard. Sumei's angry voice came from behind him. To have revenge on Chufeng, Sumei did not leave Chufeng no matter what, and she kept on sticking next to him. As they walked, Chufeng attracted plenty of enmity. Chufeng really was helpless against Sumei's actions. On the topic of power, he was far from Sumei, and even if he was stronger than Sumei, there was no need to use fighting to drive the little beauty away. Right? Since he was helpless, Chufeng might as well enjoy it a bit instead. Once in a while he admired Sumei's looks, once in a while he provoked her a bit, and that made her angrily stamp like thunder. She grabbed on Chufeng's arm and bit, madly hammered on Chu Feng's back, and all along the road Chu Feng was quite injured. There were very few people that recognized Sumei, but with her beauty she could even be called as one in the inner court. Seeing Chu Feng bully a beauty like Sumei, there were countless of young males that walked up and tried to fight for justice and pull a hero saving the beauty. But what they got was Sumei's cursing, and there were even 2 people that had their ribs broken by Sumei. When they saw the Wings Alliance badge on Sumei's chest, all of them could only curse their luck. The 2 of them continued walking, and all the observers would focus their attention on them. Just like that, they became a strange scene. When they walked to the outer circle, a large amount of people were gathered there, and they became the focus point of people's attention. Look, isn't that Chu Feng? There seems to be a person behind him, isn't that Sumei? 2 bodies came out of the crowds, and it was the Dragon and Tiger brothers. Those 2 people were very afraid of Sumei, so they wanted to turn around and escape. Bai Long Bai Hu, help me stop this bastard. But when Sumei called out to them, they knew that they couldn't escape. Brother, what should we do? Since it's like this, we can only follow up and give that Chu Feng a bit of suffering. Or else Sumei would not forgive us. The 2 of them looked at each other's eyes and remembered Sumei's orders from all those days ago. They couldn't help but grind their teeth and leap towards Chu Feng's direction as they wanted to block him. Chu Feng already noticed those 2, and seeing as they were leaping towards him with unkind faces, he knew that they were going to attack him. Indeed, the brothers arrived in front of Chu Feng and stuck out with 1 fist and 1 kick aiming towards Chu Feng's stomach and leg. Those 2 were in the 6th level of the spirit realm, and although they didn't use any martial skills, their strength and speed were top class. If it was several days ago, Chu Feng would have no way of taking their attacks. But it was no longer hard now. Whoosh! Chu Feng did not back off, and he went forward instead. With 1 foot touching the ground, his body suddenly spun, and he went between the 2 people like the wind. This aura, spirit realm, 5th level. The brothers felt Chu Feng's aura, but they were surprised because of that. How could he dodge the attacks of the 2 while only being in the 5th level of the spirit realm? It did not make any sense. At that instant, the 2 brothers felt that they had no more face. Even though Chu Feng was a talented person, the 2 of them were not ordinary either. How could they let a little person, who was only in the 5th level of the spirit realm, toy with them, who were in the 6th level of the spirit realm, in front of all the eyes of the crowd? Thinking to that point, the hearts of those 2 became colder. They changed their styles, and several palms stuck out at the same time. Countless of wind palms that was visible by the naked eye started flying towards Chu Feng. Those wind palms were densely compacted, and there was almost no way of dodging them. These 2 guys. Seeing that the 2 of them actually used a rank 3 skill, Chu Feng started to frown. He was already unable to dodge against those skills, so he had to use his own skills to counter. But there were too many observers, so if Chu Feng really used his skills, his true strength would also be exposed. After some thought, Chu Feng bit his teeth and poured the spiritual energy within his body onto his skin. He shifted towards the thinnest wind palms, and he wanted to forcibly take on the attack. Bang, bang, bang. After some heavy sounds, Chu Feng got hit by 3 continuous palms, although a wave of numbing pain came from his back. He did not suffer from any internal injuries, so the Dragon and Tiger brothers did restrain themselves. But to fake the real, he threw himself forward, and at the same time that he landed on the ground, he intentionally bit his lips and spit out some watery blood. It terrified the brothers as they saw that Chu Feng fell on the ground and even spit out blood. They only wanted to get back some face, and they did indeed restrain themselves. After all, they did not want to anger the person behind Chu Feng, although they were afraid in their hearts. They saw Sumei coming up, so the 2 of them did not lend a hand towards Chu Feng and could only put on a face of evilness, then said while pointing at Chu Feng, "Chu Feng, this is the price of offending Sumei." Sumei, the sister of Elder Suru. Sumei, hearing the name Sumei shocked the observing crowd. The name Sumei were not unfamiliar to them because it was an extremely talented person that everyone knew. It was said that Sumei was an exceptional beauty and only entered the Azure Dragon School this year, so that was why very few people recognized her. But because Sumei was extremely talented, being in the 7th level at the age of 14, she was directly accepted as an inner court disciple as an exception. On the same day that she entered the inner court, she entered the Wings Alliance. After comparing Sumei's appearance and the Wings Alliance badge on her chest, everyone was more certain about her identity. At that moment, the crowd exploded because Sumei's name was really too well known. "Ah, who's that boy? I see he's dead if he offended Sumei. I think I heard that the Dragon and Tiger brothers say that he was Chu Feng." Seeing his face, he should be that idiot. He really must not know how high the sky or how deep the ground is. At that instant, pretty much everyone thought that Chu Feng was dead. Because of Suru's existence, Sumei's position in the inner court was not low. Also, with her beautiful appearance, she already became the spouse of choice for all sorts of geniuses within the inner court. Whoever dared to offend her was looking for death. Sumei arrived in front of Chu Feng, and as she looked at him who was slowly climbing back up and also the pool of watery blood in front of them, her face changed greatly. She suddenly spun around and slapped the Dragon and Tiger brothers with 2 bangs, then loudly bellowed, "Who let you hit him? Are you looking to die?" Damn, what happened? The 2 slaps from Sumei were extremely clear. Not only did it completely confuse the Dragon and Tiger brothers, she even stunned the observing crowd. Wasn't Sumei trying to catch that Chu Feng? Weren't the brothers trying to help Sumei? What is this situation, and why did Sumei hit the brothers? She even looked like she cared about Chu Feng, and it completely scrambled everyone's minds. "What are you looking at? What's there to look? If you keep on looking, I'll scoop your eyes out." Just at that time, Sumei suddenly turned around. The cuteness from her beautiful face was no longer there, and her pair of eyes shot 2 cold rays out, completely scaring the crowd back. "Oi, are you fine?" After terrifying the crowd, Sumei walked towards Chu Feng. "I'm fine, this is nothing." Chu Feng stood up and used his fingers to wipe away the blood on his lips. A small bite wound also appeared. You bastard." At that instant, Sumei suddenly understood. He wasn't spitting blood from the attacks, it was just him acting for his own entertainment. And that acting was so real that it even tricked her. At that time, at that instant, Sumei really wanted to jump over and scratch Chu Feng's face until it was full of flowers. But she still wanted to rope him in, so she endured. She turned around, looked at the brothers, then said, "Follow me." After that, she quickly walked out of the surrounding crowd. That moment, the Dragon and Tiger brothers were full of anger. However you say it, they were still famous people in the inner court, and after Sumei's slap in front of the crowd, their faces were non-existent. But because of Sumei's status, they didn't dare to do anything to Sumei. Their strength was far from her as well. So, at the end, they could only coldly snort and obediently follow. After arriving at an empty place where there were no people, Sumei sighed and said with an apologetic face, "Sorry for just now. It's just that Chu Feng has his special areas. I also just found out about it, so we can't offend him." Sumei wanted to tell the brothers that Chu Feng had the spirit power, and he very likely had cultivated in the mysterious techniques. But after considering that those were Chu Feng's secrets, she did not say the completely truth. Hearing Sumei's words, the brothers deeply thought at the same time, where did that Chu Feng excel to gain Sumei's good impression? And after Sumei and the 2 brothers left, Chu Feng was very bored. So, he tidied up his clothes and left the crowd. He did not want to attract any unneeded troubles. Chu Wei, that was. Just at that time, 10 people walked out from the crowd. It was Chu Wei, Chu Zhen, and the others. 2 of their bags were full, and it could be said that they had a great harvest, but those were only low-quality spiritual medicine. They also saw the scene that just happened, and at that moment they were very astonished. It seemed that Chu Feng being invited by the Wings Alliance was not only a coincidence, and there was indeed an unexplainable relationship. You've also heard that in this year's Inner Court Disciple exam, there was a fierce person that killed 40 fierce beasts by themselves, right? After some thought, Chu Wei opened his mouth. Of course we've heard of it. That guy was really strong, and he's a character that is heatedly discussed in the Inner Court. But he hid himself too well, so no one knows who he is. There were no ends of praise as everyone mentioned that person. Then, if the Wings Alliance was choosing a new member within the new disciples, who do you think would become their target of invitation? Chu Wei asked. Follow new stories at novelb.com. Of course it would be that fierce person. The crowd had the same thoughts. Chu Wei, do you mean? Suddenly a person reacted to it. After all, until today, The only new disciple that the Wings Alliance invited was Chu Feng. But to connect the Chu Feng in their impressions to that idol-like fierce person was almost impossible to them. So, that was why there was a person that rejected that. Impossible. How could Chu Feng be that fierce person? Do you truly understand Chu Feng? Ever since entering the Azure Dragon School, you've only teased Chu Feng because he couldn't enter the inner court. Who would know his true strength? With Chu Wei words, everyone was mute and could not say anything because his words were the truth. Ever since when they were small, they looked down on Chu Feng and felt that he was not part of the Chu family. Yet, he hung the title of being part of the Chu family, and they saw him as shameless. Other than humiliating Chu Feng and degrading him, no one truly knew him. I agree with Chu Wei's words. Just at that time, the silent Chu Zhen finally spoke. We all underestimated Chu Feng, and because of that, my brother Chu Cheng paid the price. I hope that you guys don't offend Chu Feng anymore, or else you will certainly regret it. After saying that, Chu Zhen left first. Chu Wei and the others also sank into deep thought because they also knew the reason why Chu Cheng did not participate in the spiritual medicine hunt. After some hurrying on the road, Chu Feng finally walked out of the spiritual medicine mountain and arrived at the plaza at the entrance. At that moment, there were already large amounts of inner court disciples gathered there. A lot of people's harvests were not bad, and the plaza was very lively as people talked about the interesting things that happened in the spiritual medicine mountain. Chu Feng, a familiar voice came, and Chu Yue's ground was looking at him from nearby. Chu Yue's group had 11 people, and other than Chu Yue and 2 other Chu family members. The rest were the people that joined into the Chu Alliance at a later time. Those people were very polite to Chu Feng, so Chu Feng's impression on them were not bad. Since he saw them, naturally he would go over and greet them. Oh, Chu Feng's harvest is not bad. You actually got 2 full bags. Yeah, it's quite impressive that one person got more than all of us. We didn't know which ones were spiritual medicines, so for face we have some weeds here. Ha ha. But just as Chu Feng got closer, the 2 other Chu family members were speaking sarcastically at Chu Feng's bag. They did not believe that Chu Feng was able to gather more than the 11 of them by himself. Seeing that, Chu Yue wanted to scold, but not even letting her speak, Chu Feng said first, Chu Yue, you will almost break through to the 5th level of the spirit realm, right? Take these as a younger brother's respect. As Chu Feng said that, he put his hand into his bag, and when his hand came out, a bunch of spiritual medicine came out as well, and he stuffed all of them onto Chu Yue's arms. Chu Yue, I have things to do, so I'll leave first. Chu Yue was stunned by Chu Feng's sudden movements. When she came back to her senses, Chu Feng already walked far. She could only see that the people around her were surprisingly staring at her arms, and their eyes were filled with admiration. She looked down, and instantly Chu Yue was stupefied. Within her arms, there were 13 red spiritual medicines. Those were not the low-quality ground spirit grass. They were the medium-quality sky spirit grasses. No one could stay calm as they thought about Chu Feng's bags that were possibly full of these sky spirit grasses. Of course, if they knew that in Chu Feng's other bag was full of saint spirit grasses, many people would even have thoughts of dying. Chu Yue, it seems that your harvest is not bad. Chu Wei's sound came, and his group also slowly came over as well. You guys went and hunted sky spirit grasses, and you even got so many. When Chu Wei and the others came and saw the sky spirit grasses in Chu Yue's arms, they were completely shocked. The price of 1 sky spirit grass was equivalent to 20 ground spirit grasses, so the 13 sky spirit grasses in Chu Yue's arms were already more precious than everything Chu Wei and the others had. No, these weren't hunted by us. They were given to me by Chu Feng. As Chu Yue said that, she stuffed the 13 sky spirit grasses into her waist purse. When she did that movement, almost everyone drooled from admiration. Especially the 2 people that humiliated Chu Feng before. They even had the heart to die from tofu collision. Tennessee, not meant to be literally translated, but it sounds funny. It was because their provocation to Chu Feng just now were like beggars with 2 copper coins boasting their wealth to a rich person with thousands of coins on their waist. It was extremely laughable. Chu Yue, you're saying that these were given to you by Chu Feng. Is it possible that? Chu Wei and the others lost all color from their faces as they suddenly remembered Chu Feng's bags that were extremely full. Chu Wei, Chu Yue, something happened, Chu Feng He. At that time, Chu Shui and the others quickly ran over and her face was extremely ugly. Chu Shui, what happened? Did Chu Feng bully you? As they saw Chu Shui's appearance that seemed like she lost her soul and also Chu Gao's injuries on his leg. Everyone from the Chu alliance surrounded them, and they even thought that it was Chu Feng who bullied Chu Shui and the others. And when Chu Shui described the events that happened, everyone went silent. According to what Chu Shui said, to save her, Chu Feng was surrounded and attacked by 3 level 5 spirit realm experts. He should have been in danger, and even if he did not die, he would have been crippled. But they saw Chu Feng just now. Not only was he not even scratched, he was full of liveliness. How did that even look like a person that was injured? And what did that mean? It meant that Chu Feng could not lose against 3 experts of the level 5 spirit realm, or he could at least retreat with everything intact. How did Chu Feng have that kind of strength? They didn't even want to continue thinking about it, because as they did, they got more afraid. Chu Yue, you said that Chu Feng is fine? Chu Shui asked with a full face of emotions, and at the same time she felt that it was inconceivable. Chu Feng is fine. We just saw him. Chu Yue nodded and said, that's great, Chu Feng is fine, that is really great. SOB. Her extreme happiness instantly turned into sorrow, and Chu Shui threw herself into Chu Yue's arms, cried while saying, Chu Yue, I was wrong, we were wrong, only you were right. Chu Feng isn't our enemy, he is the bravest one in our Chu family. If it wasn't for Chu Feng, then I would have. Oba. Facing that scene, Chu Yue felt even more gratified, as it seemed that Chu Shu really looked at Chu Feng in a different way. It seems that we've really looked at Chu Feng wrongly. Chu Wei sighed, and there was a bit of shame on his face. Knowing Chu Shui's experience, everyone looked at Chu Feng at a different way. And when all the disciples left the spiritual medicine mountain, a group formed by elders can be the middle circle of the spiritual medicine mountain. At that moment, Suru, the master of the martial skill building, and various elders gathered there. They were looking at the nearby corpses of the 3 disciples while frowning. But with their position, they could only look and did not have the right to speak. Because next to those corpses, a person wearing a white robe was carefully observing. That person was very significant in the Azure Dragon School, and even core elders had to be careful around him. That person's white robe was very special, as it was full of strange marks and special patterns. The white robe was very large as well. Not only did it conceal the person's clothing, it even concealed his face and tightly covered the entire person. After all these years, he has reappeared at last. Finally, an aged voice came from the white robe. Elder Zhu, you're saying, it's the 1,000-bone graveyard? Suru went up and asked. What else could it be other than the 1,000-bone graveyard? You inner court elders really neglect your duties too much. You only report in after the 1,000-bone graveyard appears. Do you know that you all delayed a lot of things? Simply a bunch of rice buckets. All of you are garbage. Why do I even need you? After Suru's question came the white-robed old man's angry scolding. Everyone could feel the anger of that person. After that scolding, the elder waved his big sleeve and disappeared without even leaving a single trace of him. After he left, everyone relaxed and deeply exhaled. In front of that person, they really did not even dare to breath deeply, and no one dared to go up and ask a question like how Suru did. This old guy, is he not a bit too excessive? This 1,000-bone graveyard was already like an illusion, and even the spells that he set up could not detect it. How should we know when it would appear? Suru said while fuming. Be a bit quieter. It was really too hard for our Azure Dragon School to get this person. Not only us, even the sect head had to be extremely respectful. We really can't offend this person. Ouyang went up and dissuaded Suru, and he was afraid that she would offend that white-robed old man. I see that he only ungenuinely joined the Azure Dragon School. Searching for the treasures of the 1,000-bone graveyard would be his real goal. Suru coldly snorted and did not accept that. It's said that the 1,000-bone graveyard contained treasures, but those were only rumors. Today, anyone who enters would die, so it could not be confirmed whether it's the truth or lie. The 1,000-bone graveyard is already seen as a danger spot, and everyone's feelings are anxious about that. If Zhuge can break this 1,000-bone graveyard, then so what if the treasures are given to him? Just afraid that he isn't up for it. Suru curled her lips. Girl, speak one less sentence. Ouyang was obviously helpless while facing the stubborn Shuru. That's right, did the Wings Alliance invite that boy? Ah, that boy really makes my head hurt. I heard Sumei say that he refused the invitation. Suru sighed as they mentioned Chu Feng. Oh? Ouyang got distracted for a bit, but then smiled and said, "This boy is quite interesting." Chu Feng returned to his residence, and the first thing he did was to take a bath comfortably. But just as he took off his clothes and before even entering the path, Chu Feng's face changed greatly. This eye is. Looking at his own chest, Chu Feng's gaze flickered and his face was extremely ugly. Because on his chest, a strange pattern appeared. The reason why it was strange was because those patterns were created from countless symbols. Every symbol were as if they were alive. They were moving around in Chu Feng's skin, and it was extremely horrifying. Chu Feng used his hand and powerfully rubbed his chest a few times and tried to wipe away the strange patterns, but no matter what, those symbols were like living under his skin and he had no way of getting rid of them. Seeing those dense symbols that were swimming back and forth in his own skin, Chu Feng was incomparably depressed, yet he could do nothing. It seems like I haven't gotten rid of the curse from the thousand-bone graveyard. Suddenly, Chu Feng smiled in relief. He knew that this was the souvenir that the thousand-bone graveyard left him. No matter if that thing was good or bad, the current him was helpless either way, so he could only leave it up to fate. Since he could not do anything about it, Chu Feng didn't bother thinking anymore. Might as well pretend that nothing happened. So, he jumped into the bath and enjoyed his current life. Time proceeded, and with a blink, several days passed. In those few days, Chu Feng did not even take a step outside. Other than studying the third style of the three thunder styles, he was refining spiritual medicine. In a short few days, Chu Feng went from a wealthy person to a poor person with nothing, but luckily his dantian was filled up quite a bit, and with his estimations, he could break through once more after another spiritual bead. But the spiritual medicine hunt only happened once a year, and the spiritual bead was a top-quality spiritual medicine. If he didn't rely on Sumei, how could Chu Feng have picked up such a deal? So he also knew that wanting to break through again was not easy. Without him feeling it, the day of the Chu family gathering also arrived. On that day, 3 familiar people came and visited. Chu Yue, Chu Shui, Chu Wei. Chu Feng was a bit caught off guard when he saw the 3 people outside. It wasn't that strange for Chu Yue to come visit. But he never would have thought that Chu Shui and Chu Wei could come as well. Chu Feng, the gathering is almost here. Come with us and we can return together. Chu Yue smiled and said, "Oh?" Chu Feng looked at Chu Wei and Chu Shui with a bit of hesitation. "Chu Feng, let's go back together. Everyone's waiting for you." Chu Shui also spoke, and other than sincere in her eyes, there was also deep regret. "Chu Feng, we may have misunderstood some things, but in the end, we are still family. I hope that you don't put the past in your heart." Chu Wei was also chuckling, and there were some hints of admitting his errors in his tone. Chu Feng thought for a while, but still said, "That's fine." Chu Feng was not a narrow-minded person, or else he wouldn't have saved Chu Shui that day. In any case, he was also planning to return to the Chu family, so it wasn't bad to be able to chat with Chu Yue along the road. They arrived at the gate of the Azure Dragon School, and indeed, the Chu family members were there, waiting for Chu Feng. As they looked at Chu Feng, their gazes did not contain the past enmity. Rather, there was a bit more respect, and other than the respect, there was also some embarrassment and some shame. Although it was not confirmed, many people knew in their hearts that Chu Feng was likely the fierce person that slaughtered the fierce beasts. He also got the recognition of the Wings Alliance, so how could they dare to offend Chu Feng when he was like this? Chu Feng didn't think too much about their change. After all, in Chu Feng's heart, he viewed himself as a member of the Chu family. To get along with his family was naturally something that he yearned for. But he also knew that it was his strength that caused their change in attitude. But why did that matter? After all, the world is as such. Even if it was family, seniors and juniors were divided by strength. In the middle area of the Azure province, there was a small town that was built against a mountain, and it was called the Leaning Mountain Town. The Chu family was the overlord of the Leaning Mountain Town, as they had control over the circumference of dozens of miles of land and resources. The imposing gates of the Chu family were in front of their eyes, Fast horses arrived, and several impressive young males and females jumped down. They were Chu Feng and the others from the Azure Dragon School. Look, the young masters from the Chu family have returned. Purple-colored robes. Those are the symbols of the inner court disciples of the Azure Dragon School, right? Impressive. They are indeed from the Chu family. That's right. Talent is the most important thing on the road of martial cultivation. Old Yang, the boss of the east side of the town, used up all his fortune to get his grandson into the Azure Dragon School. But after entering for a full 10 years, he was only at the first level for his martial cultivation. It is simply incomparable to the Chu family's young masters. That may not be so. I hear that there's a person called Chu Feng in the Chu family, and even today he's still an outer court disciple. Because he had no face to see anyone, he didn't return home in many years. Then you don't know the full story. Although that Chu Feng has the status of a young master, he is not technically part of the Chu family. He was picked up by Chu Yuan, so it's normal even if his talent isn't equal to the other young masters. Shh, you can't randomly talk about that, or else you'll have bad luck if you let Chu Yuan hear that. The arrival of Chu Feng and the others attracted countless observers from the town's citizens. To them who had nothing to do with martial cultivation, anyone who cultivated were their idol. Young masters, you've returned. After entering the courtyard, the servants of the Chu family all surrounded them, and at the same time, it attracted many of the Chu family's younger generations. There were a lot of young people in the Chu family, but they all entered all different types of schools. So, when they knew that the people from the Azure Dragon School returned, all the other people from the other schools wanted to see what point Chu Wei, Chu Yue, and the others reached. Oh, isn't this Chu Feng? You finally entered the inner court for the Azure Dragon School? A sharp, unkind voice could be heard, and several young males and females walked over. The leading person was a handsome young man. He was called Chu Jun, and he was the disciple of the second-rate Thousand Wind School. He was 18 years old this year, and he had the cultivation of the 5th level of the spirit realm. Same as most of the Chu family members, he had also been hostile towards Chu Feng since he was small. If I remember correctly, you also entered the Thousand Wind School inner court at the age of 15, right? Chu Feng lightly smiled and said, You are correct, but after entering the inner court for a short 3 years, I reached the 5th level of the spirit realm. Do you think you can even compare to me? Entered the Thousand Wind School at the age of 10, but only stepped into the 5th level of the spirit realm at the age of 18. Such slow improvement, yet displaying such arrogance. Can't you be any better? You're looking down on me? Do you want to spar a bit? Chu Shun's face was very ugly, and he was really impatient to give Chu Feng a lesson. You aren't even fit to spar with me. Chu Feng shot him a glance of disdain and walked deeper into the Chu residence. Damn, who gave him that confidence and dared to be so arrogant? He better not participate in the family's competition, or else I would beat him to death. Looking at Chu Feng's back, Chu Jun gritted his teeth in anger. Chu Shun, I advise that you don't go and anger Chu Feng. Just at that time, the brothers Chu Cheng and Chu Jian walked over. What is your meaning? You think that I can't beat him? Chu Shun got even more angry. Seeing that he was so stubborn, Chu Cheng and Chu Jian were too lazy to pay attention to him, and they went towards their own residence. 2 pieces of garbage. How did they become so spiritless after 1 year? Chu Shun glared at the two with disdain. The two of them are very correct. As your elder brother, I will also give you a few words of advice. That Chu Feng isn't as weak as you think. I won't say the specifics, so understand it as you wish. Chu Wei also went up and patted Chu Jun's shoulders. After that, Chu Yue, Chu Shui, Chu Gao, and the others also said some words with Chu Shun. Although it was very hidden, there were strong warning messages. These people, have they gone stupid in the Azure Dragon School? No need to speak about Chu Yue, but why are Chu Wei and the others so cowardly? Looking at the leaving backs of Chu Wei and the others, Chu Shun was a bit lost. That's right. Didn't Chu Wei and the Qing Zhen brothers annoy Chu Feng the most? And also that Chu Shui. What happened to them? At the same time, the people behind Chu Shun had confusion on their faces. They could not understand. Chu Wei and the others were always humiliating Chu Feng without restraint last year. They left nothing behind and declared Chu Feng's ugly things in the Azure Dragon School. Why did it seem that all of them completely changed? In a certain residence hall in the Chu family, a middle-aged male and a young man were sitting. The young man wore a white robe. He had a handsome face and his entire body was emitting a special aura. That person was Chu Feng's elder brother. He was an inner court disciple in the one school in the Azure province, the Lingyun school, Chu Guyu. As for that middle-aged male, he was Chu Guyu's and Chu Feng's father, Chu Yuan. Creak as the two of them were chatting, that tightly closed door was slowing being opened. Who said that you could enter without knocking? Leave. As he was talking happily with his son, there dared to be a person that intruded without permission. Chu Yuan angrily slammed the table and yelled, but when the door completely opened and a thin, weak silhouette entered, and Chu Yuan's angry expression was instantly frozen. Father, brother. Chu Feng scratched a bit and entered the hall while chuckling. These two people were the closest people to him. It's you, brother. After seeing Chu Feng, Chu Guyu was extremely happy. With a few steps, he arrived in front of Chu Feng and hugged him. Brother, you're finally back. I've missed you so much. I've also missed you, brother. Chu Feng also hugged Chu Guyu strongly. I haven't seen you in 5 years. You've grown tall and more handsome. I almost didn't recognize you. Chu Guyu carefully assessed Chu Feng, and his eyes were filled with joy. But I am still not as tall as you, Chu Feng said while laughing. You are only so old. In a few more years, you will certainly be taller than me. Chu Guyu lovingly rubbed Chu Feng's head. Why didn't you even greet me when you came back? Chu Yuan also walked over, and an unconcealable happiness was hung on his face. Although the Chu family members didn't view Chu Feng as part of the Chu family, in Chu Yuan's heart, Chu Feng was his son, and he was no different from Chu Guyu. Seeing Chu Feng's purple robe, Chu Yuan asked again, You've entered the inner court? Chu Feng smiled as he nodded. Good. I was saying that my son Chu Feng wasn't that bad. Chu Yuan loudly laughed, and his laughter was unusually happy. The three of them haven't seen themselves in 5 years, and they had an endless amount of things to say. They chatted for a good half day and didn't even eat lunch. Mr. Chu Yuan, the master has asked for you and for young Master Guyu to go over. When it was afternoon, there was a call from outside of the residence. That voice came from Chief Zhao, an outstanding minister for the Chu family. Although he was not part of the Chu family, his position was very high. So, at that moment, Chu Feng, his brother, and his father walked out of the residence. Chief Zhao, do you know why he has asked for us to go there? Chu Yuan asked politely. It's about the family gathering. All the members of the Chu family have went there. Chief Zhao, who had white hair, smiled and said that. I see. Guyu, Fenger, let's go. Chu Yuan looked at Chu Guyu and Chu Feng, then prepared to walk towards the Chu family's conference hall. Tennessee, can mean son, but when it is added behind a name, it doesn't mean too much other than a sign of a close relationship and as a filler character. Sounds a bit better when you have Fenger compared to just Feng, Mr. Chu Yuan. The master only told you and young Master Guyu to go. Just as they were going to move, they were stopped by Zhao. What is this? Hearing that, Chu Guyu got very angry. Sigh. Chief Zhao was quite calm and he faintly smiled as he said, This is the meaning of the master. I am just spreading the word. At that instant, not only Chu Guyu but Chu Yuan's face was very ugly as well. They said it was a family meeting, but they didn't call Chu Feng. The meaning was very clear. Father, brother, you two go quickly. Don't make grandfather unhappy. Just at that time, Chu Feng spoke while smiling. His smile was very calm, and his emotions were not even affected in the slightest. After being in the Chu family for so many years, he was already used to things like that. And seeing Chu Feng like that, Chu Yuan's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. He also felt that he wasn't a qualified father, and he said while patting Chu Feng's shoulder, Fenger, I will guarantee that the next family meeting will include you. After saying that, Chu Yuan went towards the conference hall with Chu Guyu. 9th level Spirit Realm. Chu Feng was overjoyed. He poured a thread of aura into Chu Yuan's body just now, and what he felt was the aura of the 9th level. Chu Feng knew what that meant. In the entire Chu family, except for the old generation, there was no one that reached the 9th level of the Spirit Realm. So, it was the biggest hand that Chu Yuan had as a candidate. 9th level Spirit Realm. With only one more step, one could enter the Origin Realm. In the Origin Realm, you no longer used spiritual energy. You used the origin power. It was a power that was far above spiritual energy, a realm that completely exceeded the spirit realm. The current master of the Chu family, Chu Yuan Ba, was only one who was at the first level of the origin realm. Chu Yuan was able to reach the 9th level of the spirit realm at this age. The distance to the origin stage was only the width of a string, so Chu Feng was truly happy and excited for him. Mr. Chu Yuan, something happened. Just at that time, an aged voice echoed, and a large person ran in with a face of panic. Uncle Zhang, what happened? Chu Feng recognized that person. He was one of the servants for the Chu family. Are you young Master Chu Feng? Looking at Chu Feng, Zhang revealed a different face. When Chu Feng left the Chu family, he was only a child that was 10 years old. There was a huge change with 5 years, but Zhang still vaguely recognized Chu Feng. That's me. Chu Feng smiled and nodded. Young Master Chu Feng. Fierce beasts appeared in the ore mine behind the mountain, Zhang said in panic. Fierce beasts? Chu Feng's heart tightened, and he ran with flying speed to the back mountain without even thinking. The ore mine behind the Chu family's mountain was a very important source of income for the Chu family. But the miners in the ore mine were mostly ordinary citizens. Even if there were people that knew a bit of martial arts, their power was very low. Fierce beasts. Chu Feng had saw them before. Even if it was the weakest rank 1 fierce beast, those miners could not take care of them. Chu Feng didn't even want to think what would happen if the miners met the fierce beasts. But just after Chu Feng left, the corners of Zhang curled up into a smile as his conspiracy prevailed. Uncle Zhang, thanks for your work. Before Chu Feng left for long, Chu Shun walked over and gave Zhang some silvers. Hee, just doing what I should. Zhang took the silvers and said, Young Master Chu Shun, the fierce beasts were always in deep parts behind the mountain. How did you get them near the mines? That's a secret. Young Master Chu Shun, that's really a good method. But those fierce beasts seemed to gather more and they were more and more terrifying as they came. I think that we should quickly go over. Zhang's hair stood up straight as he thought about the fierce beast that he saw near the mines. What is there to be afraid of? The strongest ones would not pass rank 3, and Chu Feng did train in the Azure Dragon School for 5 years. If he can't even take care of a few fierce beasts, then he's better off dead. Chu Shun coldly snorted. The reason why he did all that work was to make Chu Feng suffer a bit. How could he go and save him? But, young Master Chu Shun, if something really happens to Chu Feng, and if Mr. Chu Yuan investigates it, then I'm afraid that it won't be too good. Zhang was still a bit worried. Fine, we'll go and take a look. After some thought, Chu Shun felt that Zhang was not incorrect. If Chu Feng died, then he died. But if Chu Yuan found out that Chu Feng's death was related to him, then that would not be good. As Chu Shun and Zhang entered the back mountain, and before even arriving at the mines, they discovered that Chu Feng was surrounded by a huge group of miners, and they were walking towards the two. The miners were even carrying some huge monsters. With a closer look, they were fierce beasts. Young Master Chu Shun, you've come as well. Ah, those fierce beasts were too scary, but luckily, young Master Chu Feng arrived just in time, or else I really wouldn't even dare to imagine the ending. Seeing Chu Shun, several miners ran over with lingering fear on their faces. Oh, only in that instant did Chu Shun find out that there were a total of 9 fierce beasts, 5 rank 1 second, 3 rank 2s, and 1 rank 3. Those fierce beasts were nothing to him, but he felt that Chu Feng shouldn't have been able to deal with them. Was it possible that Chu Feng already reached the 4th level of the spirit realm? But even if Chu Feng had the strength of the 4th level, it wasn't possible to finish off so many fierce beasts at such a short period of time, right? Chu Shun, thanks. As Chu Shun was in a state of confusion, Chu Feng smiled to him, and within the smile, there was actually few bits of gratitude. At that instant, Chu Shun was thoroughly stupefied. Hiddenly, there was an uneasy feeling that spread across his heart, and without even thinking, he quickly ran over towards the ore mine. Young Master Chu Feng, you killed all of these? Zhang saw the fierce beasts that did not breathe and felt that it was unbelievable. He clearly heard that Chu Feng was a piece of garbage that stayed in the 2nd level for many years. Even if he entered the inner court of the Azure Dragon School, at most he would be at the 3rd level. How could he kill so many fierce beasts with such a fast speed? So what? Chu Feng put away his smile and looked at Zhang. Not only did he not have the previous gentleness, there were even some cold intents. No, nothing, just randomly asking. Being stared by Chu Feng like that, Zhang backed off a few steps in fear and cold sweat came out from his forehead. Uncle Zhang, you've been in the Chu family for so long. Why are you getting more muddled as you get older? Remember, as a servant, the things that you should ask, you should. The things that you shouldn't ask, you shouldn't. The things that you should do, you should. The things that you shouldn't do, it is better not to do. There were meanings within meanings behind Chu Feng's words, and Zhang had a pale face from fear. He could not say anything in that instant, and his body was uncontrollably trembling. Chu Feng coldly smiled as he saw him like that. That proved that his guess in his heart was correct. Young Master Chu Feng, what should we do with these fierce beasts? Do we take them back to the Chu residence? Dozens of miners surrounded him. No need to trouble the people in the residence with merely a few fierce beasts. Just bring them back home and eat them. Chu Feng waved his hand as if it didn't matter, then walked towards the Chu residence. Thank you, young Master Chu Feng. The miners were bursting with happiness. Fierce beasts were strange monsters that could cultivate. Although their outer shell was as strong as steel, their meat was very delicious. It was said that after eating, not only would it strengthen one's body, it would even make their lives longer. Everything was a treasure from top to bottom, and it was an object of considerable cost. But Chu Feng gave such precious fierce beasts to them. How could they not be happy? And when they saw Chu Feng barehandedly kill all the fierce beasts in an instant with their own eyes, the miners respected Chu Feng even more. Near the mines, Chu Shun arrived at the place where he found the fierce beasts at first. After seeing that no one was around, he walked up to a huge tree and leaped up. When he fell back down, there was an extra wooden box in his hands that was full of small holes. Teacher was indeed correct. This thing can attract fierce beasts, but they cannot find this box. This is really a good thing to bait fierce beasts. But to be able to attract the fierce beasts within the deep mountains, other than a spiritual bead, normal spiritual medicine really cannot do the trick. As he said that, Chu Jun opened up the wooden box. But when he opened it up, the color of his face instantly changed greatly. He discovered with shock that the wooden box that originally contained the spiritual bead was empty. How did this happen? Where's the spiritual bead? Chu Shun fell on the ground with a poof, and his face was completely pale without color. Although the wooden box was passed down by his teacher, the spiritual bead was bought by his father with an extremely high price. His father was prepared to use it to break into the 9th level of the spirit realm. If he let his father know that the spiritual bead was lost because of him, his father would undoubtedly strip his skin right off. Was it? Suddenly, Chu Shun remembered the scene in which Chu Feng thanked him, and he suddenly understood something. As he held onto the wooden box, he grinded his teeth and said, "Chu Feng, I'm not done with you." At the same time, Chu Feng already returned to his own room. He closed the door and took out a bead that had spiritual energy lingering around it from his pocket, as he had an evil smile on his face. "Chu Shun, thank you very much. After walking in such a huge circle, after wasting so much effort, you did all that just to give me this treasure and to help me break into the 6th level. Hehe, you are quite generous as an elder brother." Chu Shun would never have thought that Chu Feng had the spirit power. Although the wooden box would confuse the smelling sense of the fierce beasts, it could not confuse Chu Feng's spirit power. The moment that Chu Feng arrived, he immediately discovered that wooden box, which contained the spiritual bead, and he determined that it was a trap created by humans. While he was going back down the mountain and seeing Chu Shun and Zhang's surprised expression, Chu Feng was even more sure that those two worked together and wanted to harm him. But they never would have thought that they weren't able to harm, and rather they suffered themselves. Gulp. After entering the stomach, the spiritual bead instantly became huge spiritual energies. But before the huge spiritual energy even got the chance to spread, it was sucked by the dantian. At that instant, Chu Feng could faintly hear the chewing sounds that were like a hungry wolf from his dantian. When that sound disappeared, huge change happened in his dantian. The lightning beasts growled and transformed once again. when everything returned to normal, spiritual energy that was several times stronger than before surged out from his dantian, and it filled every part of Chu Feng's body. Sixth level, spirit realm, Chu Feng opened his eyes, and a happy smile was on his face. A person that entered the sixth level of the spirit realm at the age of 15 would already be considered to be a genius. A person that went from the second level to the sixth level under 2 months could only be described with one word: monster. Time flew, and with a blink, the day of the Chu family's gathering arrived. This so-called gathering was not simply a conference within the Chu family. It was also a display of the Chu family's strength to the outside. It was overcrowded in the leaning mountain town's martial arts training ground. Not only did it attract the town's rich to come and watch, it also attracted many nearby powers. Within these outside powers, some came with invitations, some came because of admiration, but their goals were all the same. And it was to see the current strength of the Chu family. So when the main members of the Chu family appeared, the liveliness instantly rose to the boiling point. Look, it's the master of the Chu family, Chu Yuanba. The person that everyone's gaze first landed on was the old man who was leading. Although he was quite old, his back was like a tiger and his waist like a bear. As he walked, wind rose, and under those snow-white sword-like eyebrows, there was an imposing wave hiddenly emitting from it, and it made people somewhat fearful. That person was the grandfather of Chu Feng and the others, master of the Chu family, Chu Yuanba, the only person in the Chu family that stepped into the origin realm. Behind Chu Yuanba are the 6 sons of the Chu family, right? All of them really do have out of the ordinary imposing and impressive presence. I wonder who the new master of the family will be. What's the rush? I hear that in today's Chu family gathering, he will officially announce his retirement and the new master will also be selected, which means it's going to be quite interesting today. As they thought of the most important part of today's Chu family gathering, everyone was already unable to endure their excitement.